Before I get started, I'm giving everybody a fair warning right now. If you have sensitive ears, watch another video because I am not about to watch my language. I am not about to hold back at all. I'm going to say what is exactly on my mind, okay? If you are waving a foreign flag in this country, if you are waving a foreign flag in America while burning down the city, rioting, causing chaos, screaming at federal agents, screaming at law enforcement, get the fuck out of this country and go back to the country that you love so damn dearly.
What are you doing, sick bro?
So we all see what's going on in California right now. There's riots happening. People are just like throwing crap all over the place. It's crazy. It's very crazy. It's like the summer of love 2020 all over again, right? And it's devastating. And now, but Trump is the president is not allowing the same BS that happened with the Floyd riots to happen again. And this time he's on 2.0 and he don't give a damn. And which I guess the conversation we could have is when it comes to immigration, legal and illegal immigration, right? Because as a Haitian person, right, and then as someone that was also trying to get into the process of trying to get my loved one back here, and so on and so forth, and I understand how difficult that process can be. It can be tedious, and if you have like all the elements that come and make the process even longer, then it can be frustrating. So now I want to address immigration, right? Especially the deportation that's been happening and the cleanup. I want to address the parties involved and how they benefit through the immigration and how they don't benefit through it. So then, who are the factions that actually play a role in illegal immigration? Well, first, the illegals, people who come here illegally, people who actually wanted to skip the process of immigration. That so then therefore they can just get into the country. And then you also have the cartel, the business people, those who actually facilitate those transfer, the coyotes and things like that, right? The people that get you through the border and through the process. And then you have the nonprofit organizations, right? Backed by political parties and multi-millionaires and billionaires. We also have the political parties, right? The Democrat and the Republican. And what else we have? And then we have business people that want to employ cheap labor, especially in the farming communities and all the other aspect. Right. So first, let's address the illegals themselves.
Bro, you came here illegally, so you're getting sent back. Like, I'm not really understanding where I'm supposed to feel bad. Like, it's the law. Like, that, what? Am I missing something? Like, we also can't do that. We can't go to other countries illegally and just pop up and start working and all of that without things in order, without abiding by their laws. And to be honest, it's a...
What was I saying, right? So being here is a privilege, it's not a right. So I do understand fully if you're going to somebody's house and the person doesn't want you in there, then you have to leave. Otherwise, you are violating now their right? So it's like, now you are trespassing or something like that. So think of it this way. It's like you have the American people and a lot of them, they don't mind immigration, but they want that to be done legally. And if we're looking at the process when it comes to illegal immigration from a foreigner's perspective, how do you get here in the United States, right? Because you're looking at your land, right? Let's say, okay, I lived in, well, I was born in Lake Haiti, and I left Haiti when I was 14. So I'm speaking from a perspective of privilege because my father, he was Haitian, but he got into the country and then he became a naturalized citizen. And then he actually was able to file paperwork for us to come to the United States, right? And that process took years. And I'm talking about the process started off when I was like 9 years old. And I didn't come to the US until I was like 14, right? I mean, 13 turning 14. So that's like, what, 5 years, right? So it's a 5-year process to get us over here. So the process is very long. And now, what are some of the basic conditions, I think, based on immigration law that you can actually come here? You got student visa, right? Let's say you're studying here, and then that also require your parents to have some sort of money or some sort of means back in your country to be able to afford to send you to another country to study, right? So student visa, or unless you got some program, some scholarship from organizations that would actually get you to come to the United States on a visa, right? So you got that, and you also have, let's say, marriage. If you marry someone who is already a citizen of that country, of the United States, so then marrying that person, so you'll be able to get the paperwork to come here to the U.S., right? You have that. You also have, I think, HB1 visa. These are for more of a manufacturing or seasonal places, right? Let's say when you have like peaked seasons in businesses such as hotels, farming, manufacturing. So when there's like a high overhead, so you can actually get people from third world countries and sometimes developing countries in your surrounding to come as a workforce to supplement that high stream, the high level cost that's taking place, right? Okay, good. So what other or let's say if you're already rich, you want to open up a business, then it's easier to come here to the United States and to get a visa because the process is costly. So overall, it shuts the process of immigration. It shuts out a lot of people that actually don't have the means to come here because the process to get over here, the cost piles on. However, now, however, there's also, if you come in here illegally, it doesn't mean that it's cheaper neither. It just saves you more time, right? Because if the process is taking like years, right, just to get a visa, then and then it's costing you about like between 5,000 US dollars, right, or close to 10,000 versus you pay a coyote and then you give that coyote $10,000, and that process may take you probably like a month, right? So I can understand the appeal of paying someone else or doing it illegally or through scams and all that stuff, right? So I get the process from the immigrants that want to come over here because they're looking at it. They have the idea of America. You come here, anyone in America can make it. Or if you work hard, if you like, you you basically you workaholic, you can make it. You got the strength to do so, and then you live here very cheaply. Then you can definitely able to make it here in the U.S. Right? So that's the mentality of those who want to come here in the United States. But they are now. What about the people in the United States? What about them? Well, that doesn't bode well for them. Here's how. Say if let's say a company, if they have a choice to hire someone who is more familiar with labor laws, someone who will tell you that, hey, I don't get paid enough for this shit, someone that will take 40 minutes and then 30 minutes break, someone that will be want to be more lax and come here later on, that will not allow the boss to talk to them any type of way, someone who is more, I don't also will not allow their employer to treat them like shit, right? So then a company like that will more likely to try to hire the immigration force versus the native, because the immigrants is a lot more docile when it comes to the workforce. They are a lot more grateful just to have a job, to go there on a regular basis. They will not argue with you. They will not give you shit, so on and so forth. So then, therefore, that workforce looks like a more attractive offer for the employer. So then, what happened to the employees that are Americanized, right? Um, that means that if, let's say, when it comes to raise time, they're not likely gonna get a raise anytime soon, because why should they give you a raise when you are replaceable? So the working class natives, the McDonald's workers, the fast food industry, the warehouse workers, the laborers, like the farmers, these things that you get paid minimum wage, a little bit over minimum wage, these places are taken over by the immigrant population, right? So then, therefore, it makes it harder for any company to actually give their employees a living wage, and things get more expensive, but your pay remains the same. So then you have to do more and more cutback, and it gets very uncomfortable for those who actually are used to lifestyle of comfort. So to the American population, their comfort level is being decreased and they're being squeezed. They're not getting paid enough, right, based on their living standard, versus an immigrant that did it. Their living standard now rised up simply for the fact that they leave their countries behind and actually come to a first world country. So automatically right there, they have a rise in their living standard. But the Americans, the native, they have a decrease in their living standard. So that will create some sort of animosity. That will create some sort of the rhetoric that we see, or these immigrants are here taking our jobs.
Congratulations to all the absolute geniuses out there in LA attacking federal agents. You really thought that was a flex? Let me break it down for you real slow. When you catch a felony for putting your hands on a federal officer, you just threw away your Second Amendment rights. Boom. Gone. And guess what else you lost? Your ability to vote. That's right. All that blue no matter who garbage you've been brainwashed with, that just don't matter no more, because you're a felon now. You can't vote. You can't own a gun. You can't even get a decent job in most cases. All because you want to look tough in front of an ICE agent. And while you're out there catching charges, pretending to be some kind of revolutionary, the Democratic Party, they don't give a damn about you. They're not bailing you out. They're not showing up to court. They're not sending a care package to the county jail. They're using you like a disposable pawn. These politicians want chaos so they can stay in power. They don't care about your future. And those immigrants coming in, yeah, a lot of them don't even care about our community either. They're trying to escape socialism and corruption while you're out here begging to vote for more of it. Make that make sense. You're not a freedom fighter. You're just another useful idiot helping to destroy the country from within.
Right? No, they're taking your living standard is being decreased while they're increased. And that's unfair according to you. Right? So you have to, is it right? Is it wrong? That's all up to interpretation. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to understand where they're coming from. It's like, because of you, now I can get more into my plate because now you're here, right? Taking up resources that I need, right? So that's the perspective of, let's say, the native, the people that already live here, right? And as well as you have to understand now the racial element to it. Let's add the racial element to this equation, right? I believe there is a racial conflict from ideologues that believe that this country should no longer be a white country, right? So there is this premise that America shouldn't be a white country, and therefore we need to do everything that we possibly can to replace the white majority and turn that white majority into a minority, right? Now,
You can hear me? Expect my ass in your office on Monday for attacking my children. This is our city, and this was Mexico. You can't get this out of the land that was ours.
you can say that this is conspiracy theory. You can claim that this is a fear by racist people that don't like minorities. You can say that it's a fear of them no longer being in power. So then their white majority will dissemble their power structure, blah, 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 right? You can say all of that. To which I would say some of the rhetoric may have a point, some of them may not. And if we're looking at conspiracy theory, you have to admit, like, wow, they're pushing abortions on white America quite heavily. And white Americans are not having kids, are not having babies as much as they could. And because due to the lower living standard, and as well as there isn't enough resources to even have kids. Like, you have to give more of your comfort level just to raise a little motherfucker. Your living standard will be a lot worse because how expensive it is to raise kids nowadays, right? So they're not having as much kids. So then that would affect the party. That would affect, we're gonna talk to the party in a bit. We're gonna talk about the parties in a bit. But let's just say from the ideologue perspective, those who are anti-white, they're looking at it like, well, you know what? If we replace these motherfuckers, then therefore we cannot fight. That's how we fight racism, right? By actually having a less white, country. So to them, they believe that that's what's gonna solve their problem, right? But you also have the white people that's looking at it like, they already having black fatigue. They already like now being discriminated against. They're looking at it from a perspective like, yo, this country used to be mine. I no longer feel welcome in my own country. I can't even say anything without somebody accuse me of being an istophobe or something like that, right? So then therefore they feel like they are constantly being under attack just because they're the color of their skin, right? And then let's say if you're a white man, you can't even have a family because like it's harder and harder with inflation and all that stuff. You can't raise a freaking kid on your salary, and especially the women are they demand more based on like what the TV tell them. If you're a guy, you ain't making close to six figures and shit like that. These bitches don't even want to look at you, right? And especially if you're a white guy, and it is expected to have your shit together before you can start a family, right? There's the expectation there, and it's no longer being met. Like blue collar work. If you take out, let's say, um, carpentry, it used to be a white labor. It used to be a white man's bread and butter. That's taken over by the Hispanics. Trucking used to be a white blue collar protected job. That's being taken over by blacks, right? And now, what you guys have? Plumbing, electricians, and some sort of operational jobs, and these as well. They will be on the chopping block. Now, even if we're looking at tech, right? And that's where Vivek and Elon had their first spat with MAGA crowd when they were talking about the HB1 visa, basically by bringing in um, Indians and Middle Eastern people over here to work in the tech firm, so then they could actually they will slash prices. Instead of paying 80,000 to 100,000 a year to tech people, they could just pay them 60, right? So now, any all these places where white America, white male especially, had leverage, right? So they could actually feed their family and all that stuff, right? Because these were like good paying blue collar, white collar job. Now even those are being being either outsourced, replaced, or even with AI. So it's all to them. It's all about insecurity, right? It's like they feel like their demographic is slowly being erased, right? They're not reproduced. There's a low sperm count, and you get into a marriage and stuff like that because of the culture. Then that might fall apart within like a few years, and then now you might get stuck with alimony and child support. So the family you want to build, there's no security in that neither because it can easily be taken away from you. So then there's a lot of pressure upon the native population. They're looking at it like, wow, I'm looking at my country. I can't even recognize it anymore. So there's a level of depression for these people. And then now, and they feel like, okay, well, it's part of the problem is immigration, right? So they may not be correct about where to point their fingers at, but it's still somewhat valid. I can still see their frustrations with that, right? Okay, now looking at political parties, who gain more when it comes to immigration and who gain less? Who are the winners and losers? For immigration, I'd say both parties are winners when it comes to immigrations, right? Because you may say that, well, Republicans are the one that's pushing for anti-immigration. No, MAGA is, right? Because for a very long time, Republicans and Democrats, they were the uniparty. They basically, one of the reasons why the frustration from a lot of Republicans because they're like, yo, Republicans are feckless. They might talk a good game, but they just, they don't do anything, and they are incompetent. But the problem is that their incompetency or their lack of action has always been on purpose, right? Because they also represent donors as well that are, that have money, and therefore, even though they're based, let's say, white, blue collar, right, for the most part, are the Republicans' base. But at the same time, they have to answer to their donors. And if you are an employer, if you have a business and you still want to hire illegal immigrants to actually work those businesses so that you can actually make more profit, then guess what? But most of your district is red and it's a red state or red city, then yeah, the Republicans still have to do your bidding because that's why you pay their campaign. You give them money for their stuff, right? So then at the end of the day, they got to do your business. However, they can't. These Republicans can't come out loud and say things like they're pro immigration because that would destroy their base. So then what they do, they actually preach that they are against it, and then allow the Democrats to actually, put in those illegal immigrations into the and into their constituents, right? So then now that's why they're able to get away with it by not doing anything, by not stopping the Democrats from pushing for immigrations, legal or illegal, right? Now the Democrats, from how did they benefit from illegal immigrations? Well, it's simple. Ask any foreigners. In their mind, Republicans are bad, Democrats good. And most immigrants, most immigrants, when they fresh off the boat, are most likely um, Democrat. So that increased their power base, right? So the more, and then also, if you rise up from working class to middle class, right? Then that you now have the options, and then for some reason you kind of becomes a little bit more conservative, right? Because you now have a lot more to lose. You don't want to get taxed a lot more than necessary. So some of those privileges that you used to have when you were broke, now that you don't have them anymore. So you're like, well, I work very hard to where I'm at. I want to keep most of my money. So then who would benefit more from keeping you poor, from keeping you always struggling? The Democrats. Because then these people can always vote for you, and then that increase your power base, right? So, but that's not really happening anymore. So you can no longer keep blaming Republican for your failed constituency. So then you're gonna bring in a group of voters that doesn't know any better, that doesn't know much about policies and things like that, and are just more grateful just to be in this country, and they're gonna be grateful to the party that was advocating for them. So then their kids, once they become citizen and all that stuff, then they're gonna be loyal to them for like God knows how long. To which is understandable, right? If let's say I'm a Haitian, I come here illegally, right? And then I'm looking at these two political parties. One of them is advocating for me to be here, and the other one's advocating for me to be out of this country. But guess what? Once I raise my kids and all that stuff, I'm gonna teach them to be grateful, to be loyal to the party that allowed me to stay, that allowed me to actually have a place here in the American dream and all that stuff. So that whatever the Democrats are doing, it's understandable why they are prioritizing illegal immigrants over American citizens. Because the American citizen is no longer it's no longer their party, it's no longer their base, right? So why should they give a damn about people that are already here, spoiled, right? Fat, lazy, all that stuff, where they can have like a new batch of voters that's gonna have kids here that's gonna definitely multiply like crazy, you know, to multiply their base like threefold. So yeah, of course they would prioritize illegal immigrants. That's strategically that makes sense, right? Why we want to deal with these lazy redneck that just want to give you shit like this? My country, they don't see the global agenda. To them, it's all about America, yeah, right? So then when I can have the immigrants that's gonna be loyal to me, that's gonna have their kids follow the trend and all that stuff, and therefore they're gonna it's dude, they are looking at it from a long-term perspective. And here comes Orange Man. Talk about now, we gotta get these people out of here. So nah, they're fighting for their survival. They're fighting for their survival. And now what you're seeing here, and what you're seeing here in this place, and the whole riot things going on, is just them. It's the last ditch effort to trying to paint, Orange Man as this villain who wants to implement martial law, who wants to lock down LA, who's doing a whole bunch of illegal stuff. And it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation, right? If they are ignored, right, by the federal government, then they're gonna burn LA to the ground just like they did in the Summer of Love, in all these other countries and all these other cities, right? So then that's what they're doing. They want to create a big stink right before the midterm. So then people feel unsafe. They're gonna coerce the population to vote, um, to vote for them. And some because fear can also be a motivator too. Be like, you want to watch this country burn to the ground for the next 3 or 4 years? All right, then you better do what we say. You better vote for us. You better, like we're gonna implement violence if we don't get our way, right? That's intimidation towards the public. That's what they try to do, and they're fighting but if let's say they don't allow it to create chaos, So then martial law be implemented, or you have the armed forces to, to make sure there's order, then guess what? Now all of a sudden the orange man is a dictator, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But I'm not diving too deep into politics. I'm looking at the motivations of all parties and how they actually, and what role they play in this whole mess that we have. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Do you believe that these immigrants shouldn't be sent back, and why do you believe so? And do you believe that, hell yeah, they should be sent back, and why do you believe so? What is your motivation? Why do you care so much about this issue? And yeah, let me know down below in the comment section. You know what it is. I'm your host, The Haitian. So share, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm out of here. Peace.